In 2001, Relu Ram Punya was a multi-millionaire and a former state legislator in Haryana, India. He built a sprawling, opulent mansion, so massive that cars could be driven up a ramp directly into his second-floor bedroom. He had a large, wealthy family, but wealth creates friction. His youngest daughter, Sonia, and her husband, Sanjeev, wanted a piece of the empire. They demanded 50 acres of the family's land to start their own business. Relu Ram's son, Sunil, shut the idea down. He offered them cash to help out, but absolutely refused to sell off the physical property. This rejection triggered a lethal level of greed in Sonia. She arrived at a cold mathematical conclusion. If she could eliminate her father, her siblings, and their children, the strict rules of inheritance would automatically funnel the entire multi-million-dollar estate directly to her as the sole surviving heir. What began as a property dispute ended with a specific plan to ensure only one survivor inherited the entire estate. On August 23, 2001, the family gathered at the mansion for her sister Priyanka's birthday party. After dinner, Sonia prepared a traditional dessert called kheer, quietly lacing the entire batch with heavy doses of sleeping pills. Once everyone lost consciousness, she turned the party music to maximum volume. Then she forced Sanjeev to take an iron rod and bludgeon all 8 family members to death, right down to her 45-day-old infant niece. The plan fell apart immediately. Investigators combing the blood-soaked house found Sonia's personal diary. She had written down her hatred for her family and her exact plan to kill them. The police had their confession in writing. The legal system moved swiftly. The local session court looked at the overwhelming evidence and sentenced both Sonia and Sanjeev to death by hanging. While the confession and the evidence brought the initial investigation to a close, the subsequent decades of litigation would redefine what justice looked like for the Punya family. India's judicial system offers multiple tiers of appeals. Sonia and Sanjeev used every layer to stall the executioner. After exhausting standard courts, they filed a mercy petition to the president. Exploiting procedural delays, they stayed alive on death row for 13 years. Eventually, the stalling tactics hit a wall. President Pranab Mukherjee officially rejected their mercy petition. The executions were theoretically cleared to proceed. But in 2014, India's Supreme Court issued a sweeping, unrelated ruling regarding death row inmates. The court ruled that keeping a prisoner waiting on death row for 5 to 10 years causes psychological torture. Because of these systemic delays, 15 inmates had their death sentences commuted to life in prison. 2 of those inmates were Sonia and Sanjeev. A legal safeguard built to protect human rights ended up shielding 2 people who had slaughtered their own relatives in cold blood. In 2018, Sanjeev decided he was done waiting in a cell. He acquired forged documents, secured an illegal parole, and simply walked out of prison. He fled to Gujarat and completely reinvented himself. He became a Baba, a spiritual godman. He amassed thousands of devoted followers who attended his events, completely unaware they were worshipping a mass murderer. He maintained this charade for years, until 2021, when someone finally recognized him in the city of Meerut and alerted the authorities. You might expect that to be the end of the line, but today, despite 8 murders, an escape from prison, and 2 decades of manipulating the law, both Sonia and Sanjeev have been granted bail. They walk free. Sonia and Sanjeev have used the legal system's own protections to avoid the gallows and eventually the prison cell, leaving the original sentence unfulfilled. What happened to the Punya family millions? Because Sonia murdered the core family and was disqualified from inheriting the money herself, the courts transferred the entire estate to Relu Ram's brothers and nephews. But there is a massive legal blind spot. Sonia has a son. At the time of the massacre, he was a toddler, and he wasn't inside the mansion. Look at these historic law reports. Under the Hindu Succession Act, inheritance is divided into strict categories. The uncles who currently own the property are categorized as Class 2 heirs. Sonia's son is a direct descendant, making him a Class 1 heir. Because he is entirely innocent of the crime, the law dictates his right to the property is fully intact, and a Class 1 heir will always take precedence over a Class 2 heir. The legal code is completely blind to context. It is forced to recognize the murderer's son as the absolute rightful owner of the estate. Today, a dark cloud hangs over the uncles who live in that famous mansion. Sonia's son is an adult. He has the absolute legal right to walk into a courtroom, file a claim, and force his relatives to hand over the entire Punya empire. If he wins that property back, Sonia, who is currently out on bail, will have direct access to the exact wealth she killed 8 people to acquire. The law failed to execute the architects of this massacre. Instead, it might serve as the exact mechanism that delivers their blood money.